say hello.
Hi, everyone.
And Sarah is a lot like me, so I wanted to bring her on the podcast. We have a lot in common, so we wanted to talk about that today. We're both early stage kind of startup, self-funded CBD companies, and we're making our own products. We're finding our own sales channels and launching the companies ourselves. So yeah, I think that there's a lot that people tuning in can learn from us and take some good tidbits from today. So let's hop in, Sarah, and talk about your humble beginnings 6 months ago. Tell everyone a little bit of your story.
Yeah, so 6 months ago, I started my Instagram account, SarahCanna, and started reaching out to people in the hemp and cannabis industries to see really the best way to get in. I followed a bunch of different accounts to see what their tactics were, what their products were, and I think that's very common in this industry and in many industries, that you see all these small businesses kind of gathering together to create bigger companies. You usually just see like the one person at the front of an indie type business, but
Yep.
that indie business is funded or put on by a string of people. It might be that face of that business, but that business has
The social
3 other
media,
faces on the side.
we'll call it the social media manager of the company.
Yes. And then you have to find the supplier side. So I search through Instagram mainly, and that's how I find most of my, that's how I found most of my suppliers, and that's how I find most of my customers. And that's really a good avenue of continuing business. But there's the other aspect of it that's bigger than just the internet, which is the in-person sales and getting out into the world and stepping into the face-to-face sales side of it was very new to me. I am a stay-at-home mom, so I feel like I've been somewhat limited in my going out into the world because I took the job of being a stay-at-home mom and raising kids and raising our child. And in that birthed this business of making products for myself and even for my daughter and for my husband, and finding what really worked. And once you find what works for your family and you kind of tell your friends about it, sometimes a business is born. And that's kind of where my beginnings were. Is I made products and I used them, and then I shared them with friends and family, and they liked it. And then I started selling them to strangers, and they liked it. So here I am, and I'm just trying to figure out how to make it bigger and exactly what I want it to look like. So you never know what it's going to be.
It's an amazing story, and I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying, and the beginning, especially the moms out there. They're going to see this video and see, wow, she's making the product, she's doing the sales, she's stepping out of her comfort zone. Tell these people listening what it's like to step out of your comfort zone, but knowing that it's your own product that you're selling, so tell us about that.
It's a big lesson in vulnerability. Putting yourself out there is one thing, but when it's completely handmade and everything that you put into it, and the customer is like, oh, this is great, it makes you feel amazing. When the customer doesn't necessarily say that, you're like, okay, well, how can I be better? What is it that I can do to make them happy? And I think that makes you a better salesperson as well, because you start to learn what more specifically this product, these hemp products, what more they can do to help people, because most people are searching for an answer, but they don't know what that answer is. And I believe a lot of the time it's hemp. So It's just educating the person in how to use it in their daily life. And I feel like being a mother, that's kind of what you want to do, is help people and show them how to bring it into their own home. And that's kind of my process, and where I kind of see myself going in the future is helping people bring that type of health into the home, because it's been absent for so long. And you never got that education in school, or unless you seeked for it, it never really came to you. So I like to try and be that person that's kind of standing there like, hey, if you want to know anything, I'm right here. Let's talk, let's figure it out, let's see what ailments you have and how it can help you.
And so, along those lines of getting this business going, you know, we have the sales side, we have the product manufacturing side, and then we have the supply chain side, which is getting that beginning raw material, which is usually crude, distillate, or
Yeah.
isolate for us manufacturers. What was it like securing your first supplier of product? I mean, that's the biggest step that someone can take, is finding a supplier of distillate or isolate or crude.
Absolutely. Taking the first step is a little nerve wracking, especially if you're not necessarily in the industry already. Finding a supplier is kind of, there's there's a few different markets to go to, and it's which one do you feel comfortable in and where do you want to operate. So you try and find the market where you can meet people that will push you further in where you want to go, and then also that you enjoy being around. So I actually found my first person through Instagram, and she and I have a great relationship, and she really did help me in the beginning of showing me how to make the products and exactly what I was doing. You know, I got most of my information from the internet, so it was like, well, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm trying to do. And she was like, all right, well, I've done this a few times before, so let me show you a few things. So it was actually a really good experience, and I do thank the universe for that, because you never really know when you find someone on Instagram like, oh, hey, let me just show up at your house and see what happens.
Yes. Point of making products at the right price point and picking what's going to sell
Yeah.
versus what you're passionate about. Because I imagine you're
Yeah.
passionate about things sometimes that don't necessarily have a market.
Yes. I personally love bath products. I fell in love with bath bombs, and they're something that I enjoy, but they don't necessarily sell all that often, and they aren't necessarily the easiest thing to sell, because not everybody has a bathtub and not everybody takes a bath in their bathtub. So,
You would think people would
like,
be buying my soaps hand over fist, but you know, I'm pushing soaps on people. I'm like, please buy a
yeah,
soap.
it's all about how you like put it together, and you really have to figure out who your market is and who you're selling to,
Hmm.
and my primary market right now is the winery industry, and it's where I do a lot of my pop-up. And um, I've noticed that they tend to gravitate towards certain products, and they like the salves, and they always ask me for flour, and they, think I'm selling weed, and they have,
You got some weed over here, sweetheart.
yeah,
It's like,
oh, you're selling dope here at the winery, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
the constant
um,
shaking my head in this industry, like,
yeah. So there's a lot of education to be had, and I think that's a good thing too, because in the alcohol industry in general, there's a lot of people that enjoy tobacco products as well, and I personally feel that hemp products are better than the tobacco products they could be smoking. So even though I don't sell them right now, I definitely steer them towards that. Like, I'll see them walking out on their smoke break, and I'll be like, have you ever tried?
Right? You're like,
I don't
but the
have any,
funny
but
thing
they
is,
sell it on the
you're
street.
you're pushing something that just reminds them of weed. So
Yeah.
they're like, what the heck?
Yes. But I'm like, it doesn't even, you can make it look like your cigarette and you wouldn't even know the difference except for the smell. But
The smell is a big
the head high, I
indicator.
guess, wouldn't be there either. But
Exactly. Wow, amazing. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time and your night to do this second podcast with me. I'm truly honored and thankful.
yeah, thanks for reaching out. I feel very honored to have had you reach out to me. I think it's great how the social media world works, and it really brings people together. And hopefully, a lot of businesses blossom from it. So, being able to have these conversations is just the start.
Yeah, I hope some people are inspired by this podcast and inspired to just keep going and knowing that there's people in their same shoes, self-funding their business, buying stuff off Amazon, buying their
Yes.
packaging, their bottles, their
They'd
stuff.
only let me be an influencer, man.
Oh my gosh, I know. How much are entrepreneurs buying from Amazon? A lot, a lot.
It's ridiculous.
So, so with
But
that,
yes,
thank you
thank
again,
you.
SarahCanna. This is the end of episode 2. Appreciate you tuning in, and I'll theme some awesome outro.